My son texted me, "You're not invited to dinner. My wife doesn't want you." My name is Harold Johnson. I'm 68, with early-stage Alzheimer's disease. That text came from Craig, the son I bought a $520,000 house for, the son who promised to care for me when my memory started failing. What Craig didn't know was that I'd just found something in his briefcase. Legal papers with my name on them. Papers giving him control over every dollar I have, every decision I make, every breath I take. Craig thinks having Alzheimer's makes you helpless. He's wrong. It just makes people underestimate you. When someone tries to steal everything from their own father, especially when that father is a retired accountant who spent 45 years catching fraud, they're about to learn an expensive lesson. Hit subscribe to see how this ends, because what I did next shocked everyone. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's at age 66. Dr. Elizabeth Carter at Neurological Associates of Sarasota explained it simply. "Harold, your brain is changing. Some days will be clearer than others." She was right. On bad days, I might stand in my kitchen holding car keys, wondering why I'm there. Last month, I got confused at Publix and couldn't remember how to use my credit card. The cashier had to help me. Craig was with me that day. "Dad, this is embarrassing," he whispered as we left. "People are staring." My son Craig works as a financial advisor at Pinnacle Wealth Management, makes about $85,000 a year, drives a leased BMW 330i, talks a lot about building wealth. His wife Jennifer runs a personal training business from their garage, GenFitLife_Sarasota on Instagram. She has 2,800 followers and spends most of her time posting workout videos with ring lighting. When my wife Martha died 3 years ago, she left me with difficult decisions. Keep the 4-bedroom house where we raised Craig? Downsize? Move closer to family? Craig had a different idea. "Dad, you should buy us a house," he said over dinner at Olive Garden. "Think about it. You liquidate your investments, we get something nice, and when the time comes, well, it stays in the family." I love the idea of helping. That's what fathers do. So I sold everything. My Boeing retirement portfolio, Martha's life insurance settlement, even our wedding rings. Total, $520,000. I bought Craig and Jennifer a beautiful 2-bedroom waterfront condo in downtown Sarasota. Granite countertops, marina view, everything they wanted. "You're the best dad ever," Craig said when I handed him the deed. I moved into a tiny senior apartment across town, 1,200 square feet, $750 monthly rent. My 2019 Honda Accord, my 7-day pill organizer with 4 medications daily, and a fireproof cabinet containing 45 years of CPA client files. But here's what I noticed over the past 18 months. Craig's visits became shorter. Jennifer stopped making eye contact. Last Christmas, she posted Instagram stories from their holiday party. I wasn't invited. The caption read, "Celebrating with our chosen family." Chosen family, not actual family. Then came the small humiliations. Craig speaking to me like I'm 5 years old. "Dad, did you take your pills today? Dad, do you remember what we talked about?" Jennifer filming TikTok videos about setting boundaries with energy vampires. 3 weeks ago, I had what Dr. Carter calls an episode at their condo. I couldn't remember why I was there, started looking for Martha, got confused about the year. Jennifer recorded it on her phone. "See?" she told Craig later, not knowing I could hear. "This is what I'm talking about. Your dad needs professional care." Craig nodded. "You're right. He's getting worse. But here's the thing about early-stage Alzheimer's that people don't understand. Having memory problems doesn't erase 45 years of professional experience. It doesn't eliminate your ability to recognize patterns, read financial documents, or detect fraud. And last Tuesday, November 15th, during one of my clearest days in months, I made a discovery that changed everything. Craig had left his briefcase open on their kitchen counter while he showered. Inside, underneath his Pinnacle Wealth business cards with the gold foil lettering, I found a manila folder labeled Dad Legal Matters. The first document was a guardianship petition, case number CV 2024-1847. 23 pages of legal forms requesting the court declare Harold Johnson mentally incompetent and award full conservatorship to Craig Johnson. Filing date, November 20th. That's next week. The second document was a brochure for Sunset Manor Memory Care. Monthly cost, $3,200. The cheapest facility in Sarasota County. But what Craig didn't know was that I had been documenting everything. I spent that entire night reading through Craig's folder with the kind of clarity I hadn't felt in months. Every document told the same story. My son was planning to take everything. The guardianship petition listed my assets to be managed, my remaining bank account with $340,000, my Honda Accord, and somehow, though, I didn't understand how, the waterfront condo I'd bought for him. How does that work? I bought him a house, and now he's claiming it as my asset that needs protection? I called Margaret Torres the next morning. She's an estate attorney I did taxes for from 2018 to 2022, charges $450 an hour, keeps her office downtown in a glass building with mahogany furniture and diplomas covering every wall. "Harold," she said, "guardianship proceedings are serious. If the court grants Craig conservatorship, you lose all legal rights. You can't sign contracts, access your own bank accounts, or make medical decisions. You become, legally, like a child. What about the condo? That's where this gets interesting. Did Craig ever sign a promissory note? Any legal documentation of the gift versus loan structure?" I realized my mistake. In my eagerness to help, I'd simply transferred money. No loan documents, no gift documentation, nothing proving the house belonged to Craig. "Harold, listen carefully," Margaret continued. "If someone can argue you were mentally incompetent when you made that transfer, they could potentially claim it was an invalid transaction. Craig might be positioning himself to protect assets you never legally gave away." The timeline was brutal. Craig's court hearing, November 20th. Today was November 16th. I had 4 days, but the stakes went beyond money. Margaret explained what happens after guardianship approval. The conservator in this case, Craig decides where you live, who you see, what medical care you receive. If he wants you in Sunset Manor, that's where you go. If he wants to limit your visitors, he can. If he decides certain relationships are harmful to your well-being, he can legally cut them off. I thought about Dr. Carter, who'd been monitoring my condition carefully, about Nancy Wilson, my former secretary who still calls twice a week to check on me, about my Tuesday coffee meetings with other retirees at Dunkin' Donuts. All of that could disappear. "There's something else," Margaret said. "I've seen these cases before. Once someone gains guardianship, the ward's assets often get managed differently than intended. Expensive care facilities become cheaper ones. Investment portfolios get liquidated for living expenses. It's not always intentional, but..." She didn't need to finish. I understood. Craig would get my $340,000 to manage. He'd warehouse me at Sunset Manor for $3,200 monthly. The remaining money, my entire life savings, would be his to control. Meanwhile, I discovered something else in Craig's paperwork. A pre-approval letter from SunTrust Bank for a home equity line of credit against the waterfront condo. Approved amount, $180,000. Craig was planning to borrow against the house I bought him. That evening, I drove to their condo in my Honda Accord. Jennifer answered the door wearing yoga pants and a sports bra, ring light glowing behind her for an Instagram live session. "Harold?" She seemed annoyed. "Craig's at work. Is everything okay? I need to talk to both of you tonight. It's important." "Well, I'm filming content until 8, so..." "Jennifer, this can't wait." Something in my voice made her pause the live stream. Craig arrived home at 6:30, still wearing his Pinnacle Wealth polo shirt, carrying his gold-foiled business cards. I was sitting at their granite kitchen counter, the same counter where I'd discovered his betrayal. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "We need to discuss your plans for November 20th. Craig's face went white. Jennifer looked confused. "I don't know what you mean," Craig said. I placed a photocopy of the guardianship petition on the counter between us. Case number CV 2024-1847, your petition to declare me mentally incompetent, filed with Sarasota County Court, hearing scheduled for Monday at 9 a.m. Jennifer's mouth fell open. "Craig, what is he talking about?" Craig couldn't speak. "Also this." I placed the Sunset Manor brochure next to the legal papers. $3,200 monthly for memory care, the cheapest facility in the county. "Dad, you're confused," Craig finally managed. "Those papers, you don't understand what they mean." I understand perfectly. 45 years as a CPA teaches you to read legal documents. But what happened next would determine whether I spent my final lucid years fighting for my dignity or disappearing into a system designed to warehouse inconvenient elderly people. Craig, I said, keeping my voice level, explain the home equity application. What home equity application? I placed the SunTrust pre-approval letter on the granite counter, $180,000 against the condo I'd bought him. Jennifer grabbed the paper. You applied for a home equity loan without telling me? It's it's just a pre-approval, Craig stammered, in case we needed funds for Dad's care. My care costs $3,200 monthly at Sunset Manor, I said. This loan would cover 56 months of that. What happens to the remaining money? Craig's face flushed red. Dad, you're being paranoid. Am I? Let's call Dr. Carter right now. Have her explain my cognitive status to Jennifer. I pulled out my phone, the same phone Craig thought I couldn't figure out, and dialed Dr. Carter's emergency line. Dr. Carter, it's Harold Johnson. I'm with my son Craig and his wife. Could you please explain my medical condition to them? I put the phone on speaker. Harold has early-stage Alzheimer's. Dr. Carter's voice filled their modern kitchen. His cognitive function varies daily, but his recent assessments show he retains decision-making capacity during lucid periods. He's fully competent to manage his affairs with appropriate support. Jennifer looked at Craig. You told me he was getting worse. You said he couldn't think clearly anymore. I also, Dr. Carter continued, want to note that Harold called me yesterday with very specific questions about guardianship procedures. His understanding of the legal implications was quite sophisticated. Craig's jaw tightened. Thank you, Doctor. That's enough. Actually, I said, Dr. Carter, could you explain what triggers a guardianship evaluation? Certainly. Florida law requires clear evidence of incapacity inability to manage financial affairs, make informed medical decisions, or understand consequences of actions. The petition must include specific incidents and professional medical opinions. What if someone files a false petition? That would constitute fraud. Filing false legal documents is a felony. I ended the call. The kitchen fell silent, except for Jennifer's ring light buzzing. Craig, Jennifer said slowly, what specific incidents did you put in that petition? Craig couldn't meet her eyes. I opened my notebook, the same notebook where I'd been documenting everything. Let me read some excerpts from your guardianship filing. Harold Johnson frequently becomes disoriented and confused. On October 23rd, he was unable to operate his vehicle safely. Jennifer frowned. October 23rd? We were in Tampa that whole weekend. Harold has given away significant sums of money without understanding the consequences. I continued reading. He purchased expensive items he cannot afford and has no memory of these transactions. What expensive items? Jennifer asked. Craig said nothing. Harold's medical condition has deteriorated to the point where he poses a danger to himself and others. Professional care is immediately necessary. I closed the notebook. Craig, which medical professional provided that assessment? Dad, you're twisting things around. I have Dr. Carter's written evaluation from last week. Would you like me to read it? This time I pulled out an official letterhead document. Harold Johnson demonstrates normal cognitive function for his age and diagnosis. While he experiences periodic confusion, typical of early-stage Alzheimer's, he maintains full legal capacity during lucid periods. I see no immediate need for guardianship intervention. Jennifer stood up abruptly. Craig, you lied to the court? I'm trying to protect him. By lying? Jennifer, you said yourself he was embarrassing. You said having him around hurt your business image. Jennifer's face went pale. I said he smelled like old man cologne at your office party. I never said to steal his house. I'm not stealing anything. I'm protecting family assets. Whose family assets? I asked quietly. Our family assets. The money you gave us. I gave you a house, Craig. I didn't give you my remaining savings. But when I die, you get nothing. I changed my will last week. The room went completely silent. What? Craig whispered. Margaret Torres helped me establish a trust. My remaining assets go to the Alzheimer's Foundation of America. You get nothing. Jennifer stared at Craig. How much money are we talking about? $340,000, I said. Plus, whatever I'm worth when I die. Craig was planning to control all of it through guardianship. 300. Jennifer sank into her chair. Craig, How much money did your dad give us for this house? It doesn't matter. $520,000, I answered. Everything I had. Jennifer's voice became very quiet. And now you're trying to steal his last money, too. I'm not stealing. I'm managing. He can't handle finances anymore. I stood up, walked to their stainless steel refrigerator, and returned with their bank statement from the counter. Mail they'd left open. Current balance in your joint checking, $437. Credit card debt, $11,000. Monthly mortgage payment I'm covering, $2,400. Jennifer's business income last month, $600. I looked directly at Craig. You're not managing my money to protect me. You need my money to protect yourselves. Craig's face crumpled. Dad, we're drowning. Jennifer's business isn't working. My commissions are down. We can't afford this place without your help. Then sell it. We can't. We owe more than it's worth now. The market dropped. And there it was. The truth. They weren't protecting me from myself. They were protecting themselves from their own financial mistakes. But what happened next would show me just how far my son was willing to go to get his hands on my money. After that confrontation, I drove home to my tiny apartment with my hands shaking, not from Alzheimer's, but from adrenaline. For the first time in 18 months, I felt like myself again. I pulled out my fireproof filing cabinet and spread 45 years of professional life across my kitchen table. Client files, tax returns, business correspondence, names and phone numbers of people who'd trusted me with their financial lives. Among them, Margaret Torres, estate attorney, Tom Bradley, retired police detective, Dr. Sarah Chen, forensic accountant, City Councilman James Miller, Sheriff's Deputy Lisa Rodriguez, people who owed me favors, people who respected my work, but more importantly, people who understood fraud when they saw it. I started making calls. Tom, it's Harold Johnson. Remember when I helped you with your mother's estate in 2019? I need some advice about elder abuse investigations. Margaret, it's Harold again. Could you recommend someone who handles guardianship fraud cases? Dr. Chen, this is Harold Johnson from Johnson CPA Services. I have a financial forensics question about asset manipulation. Each conversation revealed something Craig hadn't considered. I wasn't just a confused old man. I was a certified public accountant with a 45-year professional network spanning law enforcement, legal services, and financial institutions. Wednesday morning, my doorbell rang. Nancy Wilson stood there holding coffee and a box of donuts. Nancy worked as my secretary for 20 years before retiring. She still calls twice weekly, still organizes my medication schedule, still treats me like the boss she respected, rather than the patient everyone else sees. Harold, you sounded stressed on the phone yesterday. What's going on? I showed her everything. The guardianship petition, Craig's lies, the home equity application, the timeline. Nancy's face hardened. That little shit. Nancy, I'm sorry, but Craig was 7 years old when I started working for you. I watched you sacrifice everything for his college education, his wedding, his career. And this is how he repays you? She pulled reading glasses from her purse and started organizing documents with the efficiency that made her my best employee. Harold, do you remember Mrs. Patterson from 2018? Mrs. Patterson, wealthy widow whose nephew tried to get guardianship to steal her estate. I testified as her financial expert witness. Her nephew went to prison for elder abuse. I still have all our notes from that case, Nancy continued. The legal strategies, the documentation requirements, the warning signs of guardianship fraud, everything. She pulled out her phone and started typing. I'm texting Margaret Torres right now. She needs to see this. But then Nancy found something in Craig's paperwork that made her stop. Harold, look at this income verification form Craig submitted to SunTrust. She pointed to a line item. Harold Johnson Family Trust. Monthly income, $3,200. What family trust? Exactly. Craig told the bank you have a trust paying $3,200 monthly. That's how he qualified for the home equity loan. I stared at the document. But I don't have a family trust. No, but if you're declared incompetent and Craig becomes your conservator, he could establish one, using your assets, paying himself a monthly management fee. The pieces clicked together. Craig wasn't just planning to warehouse me at Sunset Manor for $3,200 monthly. He was planning to pay himself $3,200 monthly to manage my trust. My entire life savings would become Craig's salary. Nancy pulled out a calculator. $340,000. If Craig pays himself $3,200 monthly management fees plus $3,200 for your care, that's $6,400 monthly total. Your money lasts exactly 4.5 years. And then you're broke, and Craig applies for Medicaid to cover your continued care. Medicaid facilities are much worse than Sunset Manor. I felt that familiar fog creeping into my mind, the kind that comes when stress triggers my symptoms. But Nancy noticed immediately. "Harold, sit down, take your afternoon medication. We're going to fix this." She handed me my pill organizer and a glass of water. "But first, I'm calling Dr. Carter. She needs to do a comprehensive cognitive evaluation before Monday's hearing." What Nancy didn't know was that Craig had already thought of that. Friday evening, Craig called with an invitation that surprised me. "Dad, Pinnacle Wealth is having our annual Christmas party tomorrow night. Jennifer thinks maybe we were too harsh the other day. We'd like you to come." After everything that had happened, Craig wanted me at his office party? "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. Jennifer feels bad about the misunderstanding. She wants to make it up to you. Saturday night, I put on my best suit, the navy blue one Martha bought me for our 40th anniversary, and drove to the Pinnacle Wealth offices downtown. Glass building, marble lobby, Christmas decorations that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Craig met me in the parking lot. "Dad, you look great. But listen, some of my colleagues don't know about your condition. So if you start feeling confused, just let me know, okay?" Red flag. But I was curious what they were planning. The party was elegant. Open bar, catered food, Craig's coworkers in expensive suits, talking about market trends and client portfolios. Jennifer wore a red dress and immediately started introducing me around. "This is Craig's father, Harold," she'd say. "He used to be an accountant." Used to be. Like I was dead. For the first hour, everything seemed normal. I talked with Craig's supervisor about retirement planning, discussed tax strategies with other advisors, even helped someone calculate compound interest without using a calculator. Then around 8:30, something changed. I started feeling disoriented. Not confused disoriented. Like the room was spinning slightly. My words began slurring. Simple math became difficult. "Dad?" Craig appeared beside me. "Are you feeling okay?" Something's wrong." Jennifer materialized with her phone already recording. "Harold, what year is it?" 24? No, 25? "Who's the president?" My mind went completely blank. I knew the answer but couldn't access it. Craig's colleagues started gathering around. Whispers, stares. "Dad, do you remember where you are?" I looked around the room. Nothing made sense. I'm looking for Martha. Dad, Martha died 3 years ago." "No, she was just here." Jennifer kept filming. Craig started speaking in that patronizing voice he uses when he thinks I'm having an episode. "Dad, let's get you home. You're having a bad night." But here's what they didn't know. I hadn't taken my evening medication. My pill organizer was sitting on my kitchen counter because I'd been rushed getting ready. And here's what I realized as they led me toward the exit. The confusion wasn't random. It was triggered by stress, social overstimulation, and missed medication. Dr. Carter had warned me about this exact scenario. But Craig and Jennifer saw opportunity. "Did everyone see that?" Jennifer whispered to Craig's supervisor. "This is what we deal with every day. He can't remember basic facts. He thinks his dead wife is here." Craig nodded sadly. "We're trying to get him proper care, but he's resistant. Doesn't think he needs help." I heard every word but couldn't respond coherently. They drove me home in Craig's BMW while I sat in the passenger seat, still disoriented but becoming clearer as we got away from the party's chaos. "Dad," Craig said as we pulled into my apartment complex, "after what happened tonight, I think it's time we seriously discussed your living situation." "What do you mean?" "You can't live alone anymore." Tonight proved that. Tonight was different. "Dad, you asked for a woman who's been dead for 3 years. You couldn't remember what year it is." But by the time we reached my apartment door, my mind was clearing, and I realized what had just happened. Craig and Jennifer had orchestrated a public demonstration of my incompetence. In front of his colleagues, on video, evidence for Monday's guardianship hearing. Sunday morning, I called Dr. Carter's emergency line. "Harold? What's wrong?" I described the previous evening, the confusion, the disorientation, the public humiliation. Harold, did you take your evening medication yesterday? No, I forgot in the rush to get ready. That explains everything. Missed medication plus social stress plus unfamiliar environment can trigger exactly those symptoms. It's not progression of your disease, it's situational confusion. But Craig filmed it. Harold, I need to see you immediately. Can you come in this morning? Dr. Carter's office on Sunday was empty except for us. She ran cognitive tests, memory assessments, decision-making evaluations, everything I'd passed before. Harold, your cognitive function right now is completely normal. What you experienced last night was a predictable reaction to missed medication and stress. She handed me a printed report. I'm documenting this officially. Situational confusion does not indicate incompetence, but then she said something that changed everything. Harold, I need to ask you something difficult. Do you think Craig deliberately created circumstances to trigger your confusion? I thought about the timing. The invitation after our confrontation, Jennifer's immediate phone recording, Craig's pointed questions in front of his colleagues. Yes, that's called staging, creating artificial evidence of incompetence. It's a recognized form of elder abuse. Dr. Carter picked up her phone. I'm calling Adult Protective Services. Tonight's incident needs to be reported before tomorrow's hearing. But Craig was already one step ahead of us. Sunday afternoon, a Sarasota County Sheriff's deputy knocked on my door. Mr. Johnson, I'm Deputy Rodriguez. We received a call from your son expressing concern for your welfare. He says you had a serious medical episode last night and are refusing proper care. I showed Deputy Rodriguez the guardianship papers, Dr. Carter's report, the evidence of Craig's planning. She read everything carefully. Mr. Johnson, this is complicated. Your son filed these papers legally. The court hearing is tomorrow. I can't interfere with legal proceedings. But the evidence of staging, that's for the judge to decide. But I will file a report about your allegations. That's the best I can do. After Deputy Rodriguez left, I sat in my tiny apartment, surrounded by evidence of my son's betrayal. Monday morning's hearing was 18 hours away. Craig had public video of my confusion. He had legal papers claiming I was incompetent. He had a care facility ready to receive me. All I had was the truth. But sometimes, in America's legal system, truth isn't enough. I called Margaret Torres. Margaret, I need to know exactly what happens tomorrow if Craig wins. Harold, if the judge grants guardianship, you lose all legal rights immediately. Craig can move you to Sunset Manor that same day. He can access your bank accounts that afternoon. You become, legally, a ward of the state under his control. And if I fight, then we go to war. Monday morning, November 20th, 9 a.m., Sarasota County Courthouse, Room 3B. I arrived with Margaret Torres, Dr. Carter, and Nancy Wilson. Craig came with Jennifer and a lawyer from Pinnacle Wealth's legal department. Judge Patricia Williams presided, a woman in her 60s who'd handled hundreds of guardianship cases. She reviewed Craig's petition while we sat in wooden chairs that reminded me of church pews. Mr. Craig Johnson, Judge Williams began, you're petitioning for guardianship of your father, Harold Johnson, claiming he's mentally incompetent to manage his affairs. Please present your evidence. Craig's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, Harold Johnson suffers from progressive dementia. He's made concerning financial decisions, exhibits dangerous confusion, and requires immediate protective intervention. They presented their evidence. Jennifer's video from Saturday night showing me disoriented and asking for my dead wife. Medical records highlighting my Alzheimer's diagnosis. Documentation of my impulsive decision to give Craig $520,000. Furthermore, Craig's lawyer continued, Mr. Johnson has recently made threats to disinherit his son and has become paranoid and hostile toward family members trying to help him. Judge Williams watched Jennifer's phone video. In it, I looked exactly like what Craig claimed, a confused elderly man who didn't know where he was. Mr. Harold Johnson, the judge said, how do you respond to these allegations? I stood up slowly. Your Honor, my son is lying. Murmurs through the courtroom. That's a serious accusation, Mr. Johnson. Your Honor, I brought evidence. Margaret Torres approached the bench with a folder. Dr. Carter's comprehensive cognitive evaluation from yesterday, financial forensics documentation, and evidence of elder abuse staging. Judge Williams reviewed Dr. Carter's report. Dr. Carter, please explain your findings. Dr. Carter stood. Your Honor, I've treated Harold Johnson for 2 years. His cognitive function varies daily, but he retains full legal capacity during lucid periods. Yesterday's evaluation showed normal decision-making ability. What about the video evidence? Your Honor, Mr. Johnson experienced situational confusion after missing his evening medication and being placed in a stressful, unfamiliar environment. This is common with early-stage Alzheimer's and doesn't indicate incompetence. Craig's lawyer objected. Your Honor, regardless of the cause, the video clearly shows— Actually, I interrupted, I'd like to present additional evidence. Margaret Torres handed me a digital recorder. Your Honor, I recorded my conversation with Craig last Wednesday night. Judge Williams looked surprised. Play it. Craig's voice filled the courtroom. Dad, we're drowning. Jennifer's business isn't working. My commissions are down. We can't afford this place without your help. My voice. Then sell it. Craig's voice. We can't. We owe more than it's worth now. The courtroom went silent. Your Honor, I continued, my son doesn't want guardianship to protect me. He wants it to access my remaining $340,000 because he's financially desperate. Craig's face went red. Jennifer stared at the floor, but I wasn't finished. Nancy Wilson, please stand up. Nancy rose from the gallery. Your Honor, I worked as Mr. Johnson's secretary for 20 years. I've been helping him organize his documents since his diagnosis. What documents? Nancy approached the bench with a thick folder. Evidence that Craig Johnson has been planning this guardianship for months while lying to banks and courts. Margaret Torres took over. Your Honor, this folder contains Craig Johnson's application for home equity credit against the condo his father purchased. Craig claimed Harold has a family trust providing monthly income, a trust that doesn't exist. Furthermore, Craig's guardianship petition contains multiple false statements about specific incidents that never occurred. We have evidence proving Craig was out of town on dates he claims to have witnessed Harold's incompetence. Judge Williams examined the documents. Mr. Craig Johnson, did you falsify information on bank applications? Craig's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. Your Honor, Craig finally said, I may have misunderstood some details. Did you lie to SunTrust Bank about your father's income? Silence. Did you file false statements in your guardianship petition? More silence. But the most damaging evidence was still coming. Your Honor, I said, I'd like Dr. Sarah Chen to present her financial forensics analysis. A professional woman in a business suit stood up from the gallery. Your Honor, I'm a certified forensic accountant. Harold Johnson asked me to review his son's financial situation. She approached the bench with charts and spreadsheets. Craig and Jennifer Johnson are facing immediate foreclosure. Their mortgage is 3 months behind payments Harold has been making. Their credit card debt exceeds $15,000. Jennifer's business income averaged $450 monthly over the past year. Most concerning, Craig submitted false income documentation to qualify for the home equity loan. He claimed his father was paying him management fees from a trust that doesn't exist. Judge Williams studied the financial analysis. So Mr. Craig Johnson is attempting to gain control of his father's assets while facing financial crisis himself. Correct, Your Honor. The judge turned to Craig. Mr. Johnson, is it true you're 3 months behind on your mortgage? Your Honor, that's temporary. My father has been helping. The father you claim is incompetent to manage money? Craig's lawyer tried to respond, but Judge Williams held up her hand. Dr. Carter, in your professional opinion, does Harold Johnson have the capacity to understand these financial matters we're discussing? Absolutely, Your Honor. His comprehension of complex financial issues remains excellent. Mr. Harold Johnson, do you understand what's happening in this courtroom? I stood up again. Your Honor, my son is trying to steal my money because he can't manage his own. He's willing to warehouse me in a cheap care facility and lie to courts to do it. And what would you like to see happen? I want to keep control of my own life for as long as possible. When I can't manage anymore, I want Dr. Carter and Margaret Torres to help me make decisions, not someone who sees me as a paycheck. Judge Williams closed Craig's folder and looked directly at him. Mr. Craig Johnson, this court finds your guardianship petition to be fraudulent. The evidence shows you falsified information to courts and financial institutions, staged situations to make your father appear incompetent, and attempted to gain control of his assets under false pretenses. Craig's face went white. Furthermore, I'm ordering immediate investigation by Adult Protective Services for elder abuse. The court also finds probable cause for criminal charges related to falsified documents. She turned to me. Mr. Harold Johnson, this court finds you competent to manage your affairs. Guardianship petition denied. The gavel came down. Craig slumped in his chair. Jennifer was already texting, probably her lawyer. But Judge Williams wasn't finished. Mr. Craig Johnson, I'm also issuing a restraining order. You're prohibited from contacting your father regarding financial matters or attempting to influence his medical care. Violation will result in immediate arrest. As we left the courtroom, Craig grabbed my arm in the hallway. Dad, wait. This is insane. I was trying to help you. No, Craig, you were trying to help yourself. Margaret Torres stepped between us. Mr. Craig Johnson, you're violating the restraining order. Please step away. Craig looked at Jennifer, who was staring at her phone. Jen, say something. Jennifer looked up. Craig, I just got a text from 3 of my clients. They saw the court records online. They're canceling their training sessions. What? It's public record now. Everyone knows you tried to steal from your own father. Craig's world was collapsing in real time, but mine was just beginning to rebuild. That afternoon, I walked into Sarasota Police Department with Margaret Torres, Dr. Carter, and a folder full of evidence. Detective Mike Sullivan, a 30-year veteran who'd worked financial crimes for 15 years, reviewed everything we'd brought. Mr. Johnson, what you're describing is textbook elder financial abuse. The falsified documents, the staging, the attempted asset seizure, this is criminal behavior. What are my options? We can file charges for elder abuse, filing false documents, and attempted fraud. Florida takes these crimes seriously. I thought about Craig, sitting in his BMW in some parking lot, realizing his plan had destroyed his career, his marriage, and his relationship with his only living parent. Detective Sullivan, what would happen to Craig if I press charges? Elder abuse is a third-degree felony in Florida. He's looking at potential prison time, fines, and permanent criminal record. He'd also be barred from working in financial services. And if I don't, then he gets away with it. And probably tries again when you're more vulnerable. Margaret Torres leaned forward. Harold, there's another consideration. Other families are watching this case. If Craig faces no consequences, it sends a message that elder abuse is acceptable. I signed the complaint that afternoon. Within hours, Craig was arrested at Pinnacle Wealth's offices. His colleagues watched as detectives led him away in handcuffs. Jennifer posted about it on Instagram before deleting her entire account. But the criminal charges were just the beginning. Tuesday morning, I called Wells Fargo and spoke to the manager about Craig's home equity application. Mr. Johnson, if your son falsified information on loan documents, that's bank fraud. We take that very seriously. I want to file a formal complaint. We'll investigate immediately. If fraud is confirmed, we'll report it to federal authorities and demand immediate repayment of any funds dispersed. Wednesday, I met with Tom Bradley, the retired police detective I'd helped with his mother's estate. Tom now worked as a private investigator, specializing in financial crimes. Harold, I've been looking into Craig's finances. Want to know what I found? Tom spread documents across my kitchen table. Craig owes $47,000 in credit card debt across 6 cards. He's been using cash advances to make minimum payments. His BMW lease is 2 months behind. Jennifer's business license expired 6 months ago, but she's still operating illegally. How deep are they? They're drowning. Without your money, they'll lose everything within 60 days. Tom pointed to a bank statement. But here's the interesting part. Craig has been withdrawing cash from the home equity line money that's supposed to be secured against the house you bought him. How much? $12,000 so far. He's been gambling. My son had a gambling problem I never knew about. Tom, what happens to the house? Since you paid cash and there's no clear documentation of ownership transfer, you might be able to reclaim it, especially if Craig obtained the home equity loan fraudulently. Thursday, Margaret Torres filed a civil lawsuit against Craig for elder abuse, fraud, and recovery of assets. We also filed to freeze the home equity line and place a lien on the condo. Harold, Margaret explained, this lawsuit serves 2 purposes. First, it protects your assets from further manipulation. Second, it creates legal precedent for other elder abuse victims. The civil case moved faster than the criminal proceedings. Within a week, Judge Williams issued a temporary restraining order, freezing all of Craig's access to funds connected to my assets. Craig's world collapsed systematically. First, Pinnacle Wealth terminated his employment. Financial advisors can't have pending fraud charges. Second, Wells Fargo demanded immediate repayment of the home equity funds, money Craig had already spent. Third, Jennifer filed for divorce. Her lawyer argued that Craig had hidden his gambling addiction and financial crimes from her. Fourth, the mortgage company, discovering the ownership dispute and Craig's criminal charges, accelerated the foreclosure timeline. But the most devastating consequence was social. Sarasota's professional community is small. Everyone knows everyone. Craig's arrest made the local newspaper. His mugshot appeared on the sheriff's website. Word spread through social media, neighborhood groups, and professional networks. Craig had become the man who tried to steal from his Alzheimer's-stricken father. Friday afternoon, Nancy Wilson called with news. "Harold, Craig's been trying to reach you. He's called the office 12 times today. What does he want? He's asking if you'll drop the charges. Says he's learned his lesson." I thought about it for exactly 30 seconds. "Nancy, please call Craig back. Tell him this. I didn't raise him to steal from family. I didn't work 45 years to fund his gambling addiction. And I didn't survive Alzheimer's this long just to let him destroy my dignity." Should I tell him anything else? Yes. Tell him when he's ready to take responsibility for what he did. Not just sorry he got caught. We can talk. Until then, he's proven he can't be trusted with my well-being. Nancy paused. "Harold, are you sure? He's still your son." "Nancy, Craig stopped being my son the moment he decided my confusion was more valuable than my love." The civil lawsuit proceeded to settlement negotiations. Craig's lawyer proposed a deal. Craig would return any remaining funds, surrender all claims to the condo, and agree to supervised visitation only. In exchange, I would agree not to pursue additional criminal charges beyond what was already filed. I accepted the deal, not because I forgave Craig, but because I wanted closure. But the most important action I took was establishing new protections for my future. 6 months later, the full consequences of Craig's choices became clear. Craig pled guilty to elder abuse and filing false documents. He received 18 months probation, community service, and a permanent criminal record. His financial advisor's license was permanently revoked. Jennifer's divorce was finalized in March. She moved back to her parents' house in Tampa and started working at a gym for $12 an hour. Her fitness influencer dreams died with her Instagram account. The waterfront condo went into foreclosure. I chose not to reclaim it. Too many bad memories. Instead, I let the bank sell it and used my legal settlement to upgrade my own living situation. I moved into Sunrise Senior Living, not because I needed care, but because I wanted community. Independent living with optional services. 2-bedroom apartment, kitchen, balcony overlooking Sarasota Bay. Most importantly, built-in social activities and medical support when my condition progresses. Dr. Carter connected me with an Alzheimer's support group. 12 people in various stages, plus family members dealing with similar challenges. We meet every Tuesday at the community center. Last month, Margaret Torres invited me to speak at the Sarasota Bar Association about elder abuse prevention. 50 lawyers listened as I explained how Craig's scheme worked and what warning signs families should watch for. The most dangerous assumption, I told them, is that cognitive decline equals legal incompetence. Having Alzheimer's doesn't erase decades of life experience or eliminate your right to make decisions. 3 attorneys approached me afterward. They'd all seen similar cases. Adult children exploiting aging parents through manipulated guardianship proceedings. Nancy Wilson and I started a small consulting business, helping elderly people organize their financial documents and establish protective legal structures. We call it Clarity Planning Services. Our first client was Mrs. Henderson from my Alzheimer's support group. Her daughter was pressuring her to sign over power of attorney. Nancy and I helped Mrs. Henderson understand her options and connect with ethical legal representation. Our second client was a widower whose son was borrowing money for business investments. We helped him document the loans and establish repayment terms. Word spread through senior communities, medical offices, and legal referrals. Within 6 months, we were helping 24 families protect themselves from financial exploitation. But the most meaningful consequence was personal. I met Elizabeth Crawford at the Alzheimer's support group. She's 62, early stage diagnosis like mine, retired teacher whose husband left her after her diagnosis. Couldn't handle the uncertainty, she explained. Elizabeth and I started having coffee after group meetings, then lunch, then dinner. Neither of us was looking for romance, but we found companionship. Someone who understands the daily reality of living with cognitive changes while still being fully capable of making life decisions. We travel together, now, day trips to art museums, weekend visits to state parks, evening concerts at the community center. We help each other remember vacation schedules and navigate challenging days. Elizabeth also understands why I had to prosecute Craig. Family members who exploit illness are the worst, she said over dinner last week. They use our medical condition as permission to steal our autonomy. Craig keeps sending letters, I told her, apologizing, asking for another chance. What do you think? I think Craig is sorry he got caught. I don't think he's sorry he tried. The latest letter arrived yesterday. Craig wrote that he's been attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings, working construction jobs, living in a studio apartment. He wants to rebuild our relationship. But trust, once broken by someone who targeted your vulnerability, doesn't rebuild easily. Craig chose to see my Alzheimer's as weakness to exploit, rather than a challenge we could face together. He chose to stage my confusion, rather than support my clarity. He chose to steal my assets, rather than earn my inheritance. Those weren't mistakes. They were calculated decisions that revealed his character. However, I've learned something important about consequences. They serve justice, but they don't create healing. That has to come from somewhere else. Last month, I established the Harold Johnson Elder Protection Fund through the Alzheimer's Association. It provides legal assistance to elderly people facing financial abuse from family members. The fund's first case, helping a 74-year-old woman whose grandson was using her debit card for online gambling. We connected her with Margaret Torres and Tom Bradley. The grandson is now facing charges, and the woman has protective legal structures in place. Craig's betrayal taught me that having Alzheimer's doesn't make you helpless, but it does make you a target. The best defense isn't hoping family members will do the right thing. It's building legal and social protections that make exploitation impossible. The fund has helped 18 families so far. Each case proves the same thing. Elder abuse happens when vulnerable people have no advocates, and no consequences exist for predatory behavior. Craig gave me an unexpected gift, the knowledge that I'm stronger than my diagnosis and more valuable than my confusion. Today marks 1 year since I found those guardianship papers in Craig's briefcase. I'm writing this from my apartment at Sunrise Senior Living, where I've built a life that prioritizes dignity over convenience and truth over family obligation. My Alzheimer's has progressed slightly. Bad days happen more frequently. Good days require more effort. But I've learned to work with my condition rather than hide from it. Dr. Carter monitors my cognitive function every 3 months. Margaret Torres manages my legal affairs with clear instructions about future care decisions. Nancy Wilson coordinates my daily schedule and medication management. Most importantly, I have backup plans that don't depend on family loyalty. When my condition reaches the point where I need full-time care, I'll move to the memory care unit here at Sunrise. I've prepaid for 5 years of services. My remaining assets will fund additional care or go to the Elder Protection Fund. Elizabeth and I are planning a trip to Alaska this summer, something I never thought I'd do after my diagnosis. We're taking an organized tour designed for seniors, with medical support and structured activities. Why Alaska? She asked. Because Craig always said it was too expensive and too risky for someone my age. I want to prove him wrong about everything. Craig still writes letters. His probation ended last month. He's working steadily, living responsibly, claiming he's changed. Maybe he has. Maybe prison and consequences taught him lessons I couldn't. But I've built a life that doesn't require his redemption. The hardest lesson of this experience wasn't that my son tried to steal from me. It was that I had to choose between family loyalty and personal protection. And family loyalty almost destroyed me. Some people will call me harsh for prosecuting my own son. They'll say family should forgive family, that Craig was desperate and made mistakes. But here's what I learned. When someone uses your illness as permission to exploit you, forgiveness without consequences becomes enablement. Craig didn't make mistakes. He made choices. Now he has to live with them. I'm living with mine too, and for the first time in 2 years, those choices prioritize my well-being over other people's comfort. If you're watching this and you're facing similar decisions with aging parents or your own health challenges, remember this. Having a medical condition doesn't make you a burden. It makes you someone who deserves protection, respect, and the right to maintain control over your own life. Subscribe if this story resonated with you, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because dignity isn't something you lose with age, it's something you fight to keep.